Hey listeners, I'm Erica.
And I'm Sean.
We are co-owners of Code 1 Barbecue in Wilmington, Massachusetts, and we're here at WCTV on location recording through Fire and Oak, a podcast about what it's like to run a small business, manage a family, and get through life every day.
I like that one.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are on episode 3. Thank you to our listeners for being here with us in the last few episodes and today. And thank you to WCTV for hosting and producing this podcast through Fire and Oak. Today's episode is...
Hot off the pit.
Yay.
We're going to talk about barbecue.
It's the barbecue episode.
There we go.
Brisket, brisket, brisket.
29 times.
Okay. So last episode, we talked all about what it was like living the dream and failing every single day in order to get through that. So I thought maybe in this episode we can kind of start off with, why did we choose barbecue?
Because I can't make pancakes. My other favorite food. Or pizza.
And I was going to say, who wants to get up at, 4 a.m. to start breakfast? But you're already up anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered.
Who wants to get up at midnight or 9 p.m. to start cooking? Or 1 p.m. for that matter.
Who would have ever thought?
Who knew? Not me, that's for sure. But that's what we chose.
So what are we going to talk about in today's episode, Sean?
I figure we'd go over, yesterday in the class. We had our first, a third barbecue class. We had some really nice people. It was a great class.
What is the barbecue class about?
It's about barbecue and making pancakes. Stuff I'm not good at.
It has nothing to do with pancakes.
No, none. So basically, it's a what we call our backyard class. It's for people who like to smoke meat and aren't very good at it or don't do it enough. And we kind of we give everyone the basics of how our smoker works, what type of smoker they're using, kind of best practices on fire management and stuff like that. And then we kind of go through how to trim all the basic, what we call food groups, pork, brisket.
Meat, and more meat.
And chicken and turkey. And we just kind of give them some time management and temperature guidelines. And
I came in and did the barbecue sauce.
Yeah, you gave everyone recipes for all the barbecue sauce.
Yep, so they could steal them and sell them. And I taught them how to make cheesy grits.
Cheesy grits.
Which is something a lot of people don't make.
Which is, not around
really
here.
Simple.
No. And then they left with some swag, some bottled sauces. They'll be getting a T-shirt and some seasoning, our house-made.
Oh, yeah, we had a little bit of a hiccup, and Amazon did not send our shaker bottles in time.
Yeah, it's all right, though. They got it. They know they'll be able to pick them up, so.
Right.
It may have been our fault.
And then they got a nice big barbecue feast.
And then they ate like savages.
Yep.
With brisket, pork.
Pork belly.
I think they got some pulled pork as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cornbread. So, yeah, it was a good class. I like doing them, especially the smaller classes because it's easier to take questions. Those bigger classes can be kind of monotonous because no one wants to talk. And
it's nice when it's intimate.
Yeah.
And everybody gets to know each other.
We only had 3 people. One person actually came all the way from Carlisle, so
yeah.
I don't know how they found out about the class, but obviously your social media is working.
Email marketing.
So
sign up for our email marketing if you want to find out about the next class.
Yeah, or the new food that's coming out.
Okay, so in today's episode, we're really going to get into the ins and outs of, barbecue as the business versus, what we do every day. But this episode, we're going to talk about our meats, our process, our menu, how we came up with our recipes, what it's like working with our vendors, stuff like that.
So it's weird because, like, when people ask me about the so-called recipes for,
what's your secret?
There is no secret.
Oh, yeah, we did.
There is no secrets.
If you believe, it'll happen.
Yeah, as Kung Fu Panda kicks me in the face. For on my side of stuff, it's pretty basic. You know, there's no like Lowry seasoning salt that you kind of find in, you know, some of these odd recipes for brisket, especially brisket.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone says, oh, mine is just 100% salt and pepper. Just don't ask me what type of salt.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Which
a lot of that stuff might come with. I mean, I don't know about Lowry's itself, but a lot of that stuff might come with MSG or other
caking
flavors,
agents and
yeah.
you know
Gluten.
stuff that we try to stay away from.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we're not spraying anything with apple cider vinegar. You know, it's just basically lukewarm water. You know.
Yeah. So why we don't do that? So when Sean and I first met way back in the day, I didn't realize I had so many food allergies. We used to try to go to all the barbecue places, and you know, I didn't know why I would get so sick a lot. And it wasn't just barbecue places; it was most places that I ate at.
Yeah.
And eventually, over time, I realized I had a lot of food allergies we can't eat at most of those barbecue places. So when you started smoking at home, for us,
Barbecue.
we started smoking. Yes, barbecue, not the other stuff. When you started smoking barbecue and meat at home, I was very adamant that, like, well, I won't be able to eat it if you add any of that stuff. Like, if you go get pre-made seasonings. And
Right.
you worked on making really good quality meat with just salt and pepper and water, because I'm allergic to apples. I can't have apple cider vinegar. I'm
Yeah.
allergic to gluten, dairy, soy. I could name them all for you. It's a lot.
Well, we're using mustard as a binder.
You're not anymore.
But no. But what I'm saying is
Back then we were.
back then, because
Yeah.
we didn't even know that you were allergic to mustard.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know that was a thing. Being
Like-
allergic to mustard.
And it is a thing,
Yeah,
actually, because we have
it's a huge-
customers who say, we're allergic
Yeah,
to
I
mustard.
can't
and-
have mustard. I
Yeah.
was like, well, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
And then we started trying different things.
right.
And then we found out that
You did a lot of research, and you were like, okay, some places will use pickle juice, some places use broth, some places use this.
and then some people are allergic to pickle juice.
Well, yeah, or like there's, you know, stuff inside of a broth that you wouldn't want to
Yeah.
put on the meat and change.
Yeah, and
you
there was
know.
some crazy stuff that I knew I wasn't going to try, like mayonnaise.
Yeah,
Like I saw that like 4 or 5 times. I'm like, I am not putting mayonnaise on this brisket.
yeah.
There's no way.
Ultimately, it came down to the fact that the salt and pepper and water and letting the meat speak for itself was the
we
greatest
have
quality
decided to use extra virgin olive oil a little bit on the brisket
as a binder.
as a binder. Same thing with our, pork.
Right.
Pork butt at least. We don't use binders on everything else.
No.
So yeah, it was just
Why do you use that binder, though? Why not just
the
straight up?
So you
nothing?
can. I mean, there's no reason why you have to use anything. If if once you're done trimming your brisket or whatever it is that you're going to cook, you can let it sit out for a little while and let it come down to room temperature and then kind of sweat out,
The moisture.
the moisture and use the moisture of the protein as a binder. The problem with that, though, with salt is that the moisture will then, basically take all the salt in
Soak it up.
and soak it up, which is fine because that's what you're doing anyway through the cooking process. But, the salt helps with, the salt and pepper both help build the bark. Everyone thinks it's just the pepper that builds bark. Salt does,
Right.
salt helps that process happen.
It also makes it what
Delicious.
adds flavor.
It also makes it
adds
delicious.
salt to everything.
And we use 16 mesh pepper, which isn't an easy grind
Yeah,
to find.
it's almost impossible to get anywhere unless you get it from a specialty place.
There's only basically it's only really used in barbecue. Well, I really can't say that because again, I could barely make a bowl of Fruit Loops besides what I do for the restaurant.
Really great at smoking meat and griddling burgers and pork belly, but can't get that cheese sauce going.
No, I cannot. I don't even know what's in any of that stuff.
By the way, when I first met Sean, I used to say, you can't even boil water.
No. I could set fire to anything.
It's a lot of process, dedication, and learning.
I could fix just about everything on the face of the earth, but I couldn't I couldn't cook.
Yeah.
It was weird.
You could make Hamburger Helper.
I could. I was really good at that. and Honey Nut Cheerios for some reason.
Yeah.
So, going through just the process of learning how to do all this, and, didn't happen. I mean, it took, 4 or 5 years for us to really get it down to where we thought.
we were smoking for a long time and trying different things, and we would use like other people's rubs. Like we bought Meat Church a lot because Meat Church has like awesome, flavorful rubs, and a lot of them are gluten and dairy free, so they weren't,
Shout out to Meat Church and Matt Pittman.
Yeah, anything that I reacted to, we did that.
Yeah.
What else did we use? Mostly
it
we
was
tried mostly Meat Church in the beginning.
Mostly Meat Church because we knew that the quality was going to be better than most.
The pepper, once we started using the 16 mesh pepper, there was only like 2 places you could get it from.
Yeah, so we started using Spiceology. First we started using SPG combined.
Yeah,
Salt,
but
pepper,
the garlic
garlic
was just not like...
It was caking.
It wasn't a good flavor profile for what we wanted.
No.
SPG is really big in the barbecue world, and
it's mainly what people put on, and then once they're done with putting on the SPG, they then put Lowry seasoning salt in.
Yeah, and then spray it down with like apple cider vinegar or pickle juice or whatever their broth or whatever their mix, and everybody has their own secrets.
Mushroom sauce.
Yep, that's another one.
Yep, and that's what a lot of people don't understand is that that whole barbecue gatekeeping that I talk about a lot.
Yeah, because people don't want to share. And it's understandable because 100%. If you have something that everybody loves, I mean, it's the same thing. Like yesterday in the class, one of our class members was dying to learn how I make the Alabama White. And I
still can't believe you did it.
Yeah, I did it. That's not something, I was, I'm not too concerned that he's going to, steal it and mass produce it. But that's not something that I'll share with many people, and then, I got all the ingredients together. I didn't give them exact measurements, but
I tell that to people all the time. Like, I just use salt and pepper, 16 mesh pepper,
and they're like,
salt.
And what else?
Yeah, and nothing. But good luck trying to produce
the same thing.
30, 40 briskets, and have them all taste the exact same. And and that's kind of what we go through the class is like, everyone goes to these YouTube channels that are like, this is what you have to do. Boom, 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 boom. And then at the end of the episode, it's okay, stay tuned to episode 2 so I show you how I cook it. Or, and people don't realize those YouTube channels are sponsored by somebody. That's how they make their money.
Yeah,
right? So
everybody has sponsorships.
They can't give you every little piece of information in one episode because they need that viewership to come back to them. And if you're
we
trying
also need the viewership, so keep watching and listening, please.
So they really can't give you every little bit of information, and for especially a new brisket cooker, you kind of need to know everything before you start.
But no matter what you're starting, whether what you're new at, you're starting from nothing. You're starting from zero. You have no idea what you're doing, and the only way for you to do it is to try, see what works, and figure it out.
And then you go to YouTube, and there's 9,000 channels.
Different ways,
Different ways of trimming, different ways of...
And some people will sauce. They like to brush their sauce on. They like to mop their sauce. Some people like thin sauce, thick sauces. Some people don't sauce. It's just, some people, when it comes to pork ribs, some people are like, you need to wrap your ribs, or we do the, what do you call it, the 3-2-1 method or whatever.
And it's so much information, and for someone that's really starting out and really wants to do this, it can be disheartening because you're like, okay, I followed that guy's recipe to the T, and my stuff still came out like dog food. It's like, well, what he's not telling you is that, if you halfway through your cook and you're about to wrap and your brisket is still, someone called really tight.
There's a lot. There's a lot of innate details
you
that you
shouldn't be
learn.
wrapping yet.
Yeah. How does it feel? You learn to, you'll throw ribs on and you'll come home and go to bed, and I'll go in and you'll say, make sure you don't forget about the ribs, and I'll open the pit and I'll know just by looking at them.
Yep.
I don't have to tempt them. I've been doing it so long; those are done. I'm gonna pull. I mean, I tempt them.
And most,
because it's a restaurant. But
most pit masters do everything by feel.
By feel, by touch. And that takes experience, years of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you right now, Aaron Franklin and the guys over at Goldie's or Dame's Barbecue in Texas, they're not temping anything.
Yeah, they just know what they're doing.
They're picking the brisket up. They're feeling the edges. They're feeling the middle. They're trying to feel how the flat feels compared to the, the fatty portion of the brisket to find out whether it's ready to wrap or come out. And some guys are wrapping, some guys are not wrapping.
Some use tinfoil, some use butcher paper.
Some people use a combination. Some people only wrap what they call a tinfoil boat. There's so much stuff out there that can really hamper a brand new woman.
Yeah.
Yep. We had a woman pitmaster there yesterday. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And she knew her
Kudos
stuff.
to the women pitmasters out there and in the barbecue business. There aren't many of us.
One of the best in the world works for Snow's Barbecue, and she's close to 90 years old, Miss Tootsie.
Yeah.
You know?
You love her. You talk about her all the time.
I love her.
There's an episode out on, something, Discovery Channel.
Netflix.
Sean's must have watched it like 10, 15 times. Yeah.
She's the biggest inspiration I've ever had.
Yeah, which is great.
But yeah, I mean, I think whether you take our class or anybody's class, the one thing you should be asking is, how much of the basics are you going to show me? Right? And that's why we call this class
Backyard Barbecue
Basics.
Yeah, Backyard Barbecue
Right?
Basics.
Because I can't teach you everything in one class.
And you're not going to remember every little tiny thing. It's going to come with your experience.
We do give out a pamphlet so they can take notes. Excuse me.
And also, you give them the option to come back and trim a brisket with you if they need that extra experience.
Some of that is because I think it's hysterical to watch them do it, like their first one. Like they get to we take out a brisket and we trim it in front of them of how we do it, and we kind of go through the whole process, and then they don't, because the class we give them a brisket to take home, a Creekstone brisket to take home, but obviously they're not going to take it home that day.
Right.
So we give them the option to come back to grab the brisket, and if they want to spend another 30 minutes with me, it's free, and I help them trim that first brisket again. And basically what I do is we go into the back table.
Right. In our
I give
tiny
them the
little
brisket,
kitchen.
Yep. And they open it up, and I just sit there and laugh because people just find it so daunting.
Listen, I mean, I've been doing this with you. I'm the chef. I come up with all the other recipes, the sides, the barbecue sauces. That's where my background is. But, I can make steak. I could do that, with my eyes closed. But I could, trim some ribs, no problem. But you open that brisket up, and we've been doing this for years now, and I still look at the brisket and I go, oh. And I'll actually pre-trim some briskets for you, and there's a point where you tell me, don't
touch the fat cap.
Don't touch the fat cap. Don't do anything on the top of the brisket.
Don't touch the fat cap.
Don't shave it down.
Don't do it.
And I remember the very first time, I think you were actually sick or something. You weren't feeling good.
No, I wasn't feeling good. And I had you cut.
I had to get some brisket on for something, and I did it and put the brisket on, and I seasoned it, and we opened up the smoker later that day, and I was like, there was an alligator head staring back at me. It had eyes and teeth.
By the way, I still have that picture, and I used that picture during class. This is what it's not supposed to look like after you trim it. That was a 20-pound brisket that turned into 2.5 pounds of meat.
Yeah. I just kept trimming and trimming.
And that's where, people were like, okay. And I said that to them yesterday, even myself. I found myself, all right, this
trying to make it perfect.
This still needs another cut here or another cut there. And then finally you got to say, okay, well, this 20-pound brisket is only going to get me 4.5 pounds of, sellable meat. Yeah. I gotta stop.
Well, there's all these things about perfection, but we talked about this in the last episode that trying to be perfect, just kills everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're trying to be so perfect, but as long as you've got it down to where it needs to be, and it's like that in any job. I'm, as a writer, I could edit over and over and over again, and then publish something, and then realize, okay, I could have edited that even more.
And it's funny
because
the brisket is the only one thing that
you're obsessed over.
I'm really obsessed over. You throw a couple of pork butts at me, I'm like, yeah.
No one cares what the pork butt looks like after it's done.
Yeah. 1 or 2 pieces of trimming off the fat cap, and I'm like, boop, right in the smoker.
Yeah, because you shred that.
Yeah, it all gets the biggest thing on a pork butt is the bark, because that bark has to be mixed in with the rest of it. So That's all you're really looking for.
Right.
I mean, it's the ugliest piece of meat going, you know.
Yeah. But
So
it's pretty tasty.
it is delicious.
Yeah, I like the pork.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely like the pork the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll eat the pulled pork and the pork ribs and the pork belly.
And that's
more than I eat the brisket.
And it's funny because as we were building the menu, like what was going to go on, so we had the catering going, right? Okay, we're gonna offer all this food. Ended up being like 3 items.
Yep.
Right, we're gonna offer some pork, and definitely have to do brisket. And then we started adding like little stuff here and there, like pork belly bites, and that took off. Like
the pork belly is like so insanely popular.
It's a crack
surprising.
cocaine. I don't get it.
I call it my nemesis because
we can't keep it in like
no.
The amount I'll cook like 3 or 4 bellies, and then the next day you're like,
we need more belly.
I'm sorry, but we need more belly. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
And one of the things that we struggle with in our current space right now is storage. We only have one fridge. We do not have a walk-in. It's a very small space. We took it over from a former pizza and sub shop, so we can only purchase so much at one time.
Yeah.
So we get our belly in for what we think we're going to serve for the week, and it's never enough.
Wednesday as opened.
And
we need more belly.
And you can actually make the pork belly a bunch of different ways.
Which we do.
Yeah.
We make it into our own bacon.
Yeah, that's something we do now. We don't purchase bacon with all the nitrates and additives. We make our own bacon in-house, thin sliced.
Yeah, thin sliced. Thank God I'm not.
And we use the bacon in our Brussels and bacon. It goes in our collard greens. We use it on our barnyard burgers.
Our baked beans.
It goes in our baked beans. We have a turkey club now that's pretty phenomenal that comes with the chipotle mayo that we put on it. That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So it gets used it gets used in a lot of things. So we're smoking a lot of pork belly to make that bacon.
Yeah. And as we keep getting into the warmer months too. I mean, how many so we house grind all of our own burgers.
From the brisket trim.
From the brisket trimming, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many burgers did we go through the other day? It was like 30.
Yeah, it was like 30 in like 2 hours.
I was
we have this tiny little griddle. It was completely full of burgers for like 2 hours.
It was like Burger King.
Yeah.
Crazy.
No, but it was better than Burger King.
Oh, okay. Well,
fresh ground brisket burgers. There's no chuck in it.
Nope.
We're grinding meat like every day.
70-30 mix.
Yeah.
Fattier the better.
They're half-pound burgers.
They're big burgers.
They start off as half-pound burgers.
They start off as half-pound.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're delicious.
And then when we first started making burgers, we were like, oh, yeah, well, we have all this grind. Like when you trim brisket, there's a ton of meat left over. Like there's a lot. And it used to be like, what do we do with all this? Well, we make beef tallow. We make tallow from it. So we use all of the fat to make our own beef oil or beef grease, as some people in the kitchen like to call it, beef tallow. And then we still had all of this meat, but it's not like you can take that meat and smoke it. And if you throw it in like a pan and try to fry it up, it's very tough. Like it's not.
Oh, it's a piece of shoe leather.
Yeah, brisket isn't the kind of meat that you cook fast.
That's why and I tell people this all the time. It's a piece of meat. Like that's how barbecue started, and that's what people don't realize is like before when butchers got all their cattle and all their stock in, refrigeration was horrible. Like it was not good. Right. So they had to use all the pieces of meat that didn't sell, and brisket was one of them because you couldn't just. It's not a 5-minute cooked item.
Yeah.
It was actually butchers that developed the smoking process. Well, someone realized that at one point, if they took a piece of brisket, right, or beef rib, and they smoked it way past the 165 mark.
The cooking temp.
The cooking temp, it would get tender, and that's where this all gets started.
Yeah.
Right. Like Central Texas barbecue is literally based on overcooking large pieces of meat that you couldn't sell at your butcher shop.
Right.
So they had to figure out what to do with it. And that's where sausages really got popular in Texas is, okay, if I grind this up with some pork, I can make a pork and beef sausage. Craig's Market. I mean, it's a barbecue place called Craig's Market because it was a market at one point.
Right.
And for us, when we were developing our menu and developing our barbecue, That's what our stuff is really based on. Is what that Central Texas straight salt and pepper recipe with no crazy binders.
Utilizing all of the meat that we can possibly use to.
We just started doing beef cheeks.
Yes, some people are having a little bit of an issue with that. What are beef cheeks? Well, they're the cheek from the cow.
Yeah. It's the muscle next to the tongue. I'm sorry. It is, but it's delicious.
It's very fatty, sort of. It's more like a.
It's a beef rib texture. That's what I tell people.
It's a beef rib texture without the bone.
Without the bone.
It's not as chewy though. It's more tender, I think.
It is tender. Well, it's because we cook it correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those items that we're trying out. I still have to try to figure out the sausages.
Yeah, we're working on that. It was funny, a couple of months ago, you were like, okay, we're going to try some sausage, and you kind of need a binder in sausage. And so going back to the allergy thing, where we don't put any, so my allergies are extensive. So I said, I'm not going to own a restaurant or work in a restaurant where I'm going to be sick or worried about dying all of the time. And we make it a point. That's part of what we do. We offer allergy-friendly, safe meats so that, everybody can eat it. So they're gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. We do not put any gluten, dairy, or soy directly on the smoker. And making sausages, everybody's like, oh, jalapeno and cheddar sausage. Which
is delicious.
And we need milk to bind the sausage because everybody uses milk. And I said, no, there's got to be a way. And this is where I push you a little bit, because you really want to get that dairy in there. You're like, we need honey cinnamon butter on the turkey and we need dairy on this. And I'm like, no, there's got to be a way we can bind it without using a dairy product or gluten. And so we're like, okay, we'll use water. And the first time we started doing it, you're like, I need more water. You remember, and it came out like soup. And
it came out like cat food.
And then you're like, I have to do some more research. And you came back and you're like, I used too much water.
I used way too much water. Yeah, it was like cat food. It was like opening a can of Alpo. And I was like, that can't be what that's supposed to look like.
That's not what it's supposed to look like.
And that wasn't pure beef, too. That was we tried a beef and pork mixture.
Right. Because we do get some pork trimmings, too. We trim pork off of a lot of the pork items, the pork ribs, the belly and the...
Yeah. So, eventually I'm going to get that recipe right and get homemade sausages out there to the public, but it's been a year.
This is how it works, though. You started off learning brisket out of, the backyard many years ago, and it took many years for you to perfect that. We didn't just show up one day and say, hey, we're going to have a barbecue restaurant and make perfect brisket.
To this day, I still pull off brisket. I'm like,
yeah, there's sometimes when it looks a little like an alligator head.
When it's done by you, not by me. I have to say,
still tastes good. No,
I have to say, I'm pretty perfect with that trimming.
So you can, and anybody in the restaurant industry or anybody who cooks in a kitchen or is a chef will understand this. You can have a recipe, and it can be exact, but every chef is going to make that recipe different. So I'll do a brisket next to Sean will do a brisket. And, of course, the average person, when they come in to eat, probably can't tell the difference. But for me, I instantly know which brisket was mine and which was yours. And I swear they taste different.
Yep.
I use the same exact, salt and pepper mix that you put it together. I don't do the salt and pepper mix. I take your shaker, I'll put it on, but it will still not taste the same as your brisket.
The brisket knows.
The brisket knows.
The brisket knows.
Yeah, the pork comes out fine, but the ribs come out. The ribs come out good. I've gotten that down, but the brisket is just something that
again, and like we say in the barbecue class, this is going to take you thousands of dollars of ruining a brisket for you to do it. So don't go buy Wagyu briskets.
Yeah,
don't go buy prime briskets just to screw them up. Go buy select.
Yeah.
Buy the cheapest brisket you can, because it's going to taste horrible.
And when you think about it, you are technically, when you're smoking, you're overcooking the meat. You're not bringing the meat. When you cook a steak, most people will eat a steak medium rare to medium. You're cooking it to 130, 135, maybe 140, if you want it well done, okay. But when you're cooking brisket, it's going up to 190 198. Some people go to 200. Some people go to 208. Some, you know,
208.
Yeah, there's a range. I've seen
Yeah, there's
lots
a
of
range.
I've seen lots of YouTube videos where they're like, I cooked my brisket to 208.
And again, here we go.
Yeah, see.
Listening to those YouTube, and like there's only like, and I told everyone in the class yesterday, there's really only two, and I'm not bashing anyone's YouTube channel because it's all information, and you know it's
and people are out there sharing what they do, sharing what they do
from each watch. But when it comes down to like having really good, solid information without any bias, it's definitely Chud's Barbecue, Bradley Robinson, and
you love Chud's.
In the Mad Scientist Barbecue.
Yeah.
You know, those two gents, like, flat out are, you know, the place to go to when it comes to, like, honest reviews of how to do things and, you know, showing you. And Jeremy Yoder from Mad Scientist Barbecue, I believe he's, like, a chemistry teacher or something. Like, he goes through, like, the biology of how a fire works and, you know, what's in the fire is just, it's maddening on how smart he is. And, you know, Bradley Robinson's been a pitmaster forever with some of the biggest names in Texas.
He's also fun to watch.
And he's hysterical.
Like every time I walk in and I'm like, okay, you're watching the same episode again, but then I get stuck too and I'm like watching him trim a brisket. I'm like, we've seen this like 40,000 times.
I know, and but you know, for me, I can't really go to like another restaurant and say, hey, what are you guys doing here so maybe I can learn something?
Well, when you look at barbecue in Massachusetts, you know, maybe there's a handful compared to, I don't know the exact number of barbecue places in Massachusetts, but, you know, some of us are new, some of us have been around for a while, but there's a handful of us compared to, you go to Texas and there's a barbecue joint on every corner.
Yeah.
And there, you know, in Texas, there's barbecue joints that have been around for 100 years. Like, we don't have a barbecue place in Massachusetts that's been around for 100 years that can like say, hey,
no,
you know, this is barbecue. So we're babies out here.
Oh yeah.
You know, in Massachusetts,
we're newbies.
We're wicked newbies compared to like everywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, so
and it's funny because I don't think there's 300 of us barbecue restaurants.
I don't know. After this episode, we're going to go and look now and see exactly how many.
There's probably 7 million.
There's probably like 14,000 or something. But
but like, you know, you go to Texas and, you know, that's the one thing that you and I really want to do is take a month off and try to hit every, you know, well-known barbecue joint in Texas. You know, it's.
Well, you've been to Texas because you were there. Like you're an Air Force veteran. You were stationed or you know, stayed down there for a little while and, you know, not just Texas, but, you know, in the South too. And that's actually a question that we get from a lot of people is like, so where are you from?
Well, one of our favorite people in our restaurant his name is Tex. Because he's from Texas. He's from, I think, the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yeah.
And he had walked in and he could smell.
He said, it smells like home in here. It
smells like home in here. And he asked us where we were from, and I said, well, Melrose. I'm from Melrose. My wife's from Everett.
Yeah.
And he's like, Everett, Texas?
like, is there an Everett, Texas? I have no
don't
idea.
Know. I'm like, no, we're from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
He says, it smells like Texas in here. And I said, well, all of our wood comes from Butler Wood from Texas.
Yep.
We use post oak.
Butler Wood is a family-owned company out of Texas, and we order directly. They ship directly to us, pallets of wood.
Yep.
And you know, it's a distinct flavor that we'd been using for a while. Like we don't use fruit wood. One. We don't use any fruit wood. We don't, you know, no cherry or apple wood. And again, like it's just it's a matter of like letting the meat speak for itself, and then having some of that smoke flavor in there.
Yeah. It's a really good smoking wood. It's very mild. It doesn't overpower anything.
And it doesn't, like, you know, a lot of places will use hickory or whatever. They have the local wood around here.
Or white oak, sometimes red oak.
Yeah, and we've supplemented in the past, like when we're like, oh, we ran out of post oak, we couldn't get our delivery in, we had to supplement. And I always found that the hickory, you know, I don't know if it's us. I mean, everybody's different, but it burns differently, and it gives it a bit of a flavor that, you know, we just kept going back to the post oak because that's what we loved the most.
Yeah, it's. You know, it's a little bit more expensive because we are getting it from Texas.
Well, you have to pay for shipping.
Yeah, you have to pay for shipping and stuff. But it really makes a big difference in the barbecue, I think.
Yep.
And it's not something that's, around here. So it does put us in a different.
It makes
us different.
I mean, every barbecue place is different, and they have their own, inspirations and their own way of doing things and their own recipes, and that's just part of ours.
Yeah.
It's just how we developed our flavor profile.
Yeah.
But yeah, people will say, "Where are you from?" And it's like, "No, we're from Massachusetts." And it's, even for me, coming up with sides that aren't very traditional around here that you won't find, collard greens. Not a lot of places make collard greens or cheesy grits.
And to go into the whole sides and the preparation of those sides, like just trying to get our team to prep some of that stuff.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time.
How long does it take to do? We get collard greens in the beginning of the week, right? So we prep on Mondays and Tuesdays.
So everything, because everything that we do takes time. So we have to wash and trim and cut the collard greens, and then we cook them in a homemade pork stock that we use. We take the bones from the pulled pork from the pork butt that you smoke. We save those and we throw those in with the batch of collard greens and our seasonings, and we make a pork stock from that. We cook it in that. We then make a separate pork stock with the bones separately from the collard greens that we use for after the fact. And so they cook for a while. So it's not something you can just walk in and say, okay, I'm going to whip up some collard greens. We have we have to pre-make the greens for them to be tender enough to then when you come into the store and you order collard greens with your side, we saute them in a fresh pork stock. We add bacon, we season them, and then that's what you get. And it's one of those things okay, yes, I went to culinary school many years ago. I worked in the restaurant industry, but a lot of what we have here in Massachusetts for restaurants are chain restaurants, Italian places, steakhouses. They're not Southern so much as Southern restaurants making a lot of those sides. So for me, I had to come up with these barbecue sauces and these collard green recipes, and it was trial and error. I studied a lot of the chefs that were making that stuff in their own restaurants, and, having a lot of food allergies, I had to take those recipes.
Can't use this, can't use that.
Yeah, you can't, a lot of stuff calls for apple cider vinegar. Well, we don't even keep apple cider vinegar in the restaurant. So I had to take all of those recipes and create allergy-friendly, dairy-free, gluten-free, soy-free recipes from those that actually tasted good. And it was a lot of trial and error. And, I mean, with the barbecue sauces, I remember in the beginning when we were just catering, I would tell folks, listen, get your own barbecue sauce, whatever you like. You like, whatever's on the shelf, you grab it, you use it. And then I would say, but here's mine, and let me know your thoughts. And I would get feedback from people. There's not enough vinegar, they would say, or there's too much vinegar. It doesn't taste right, things like that.
Yeah, we went through a lot of that. But, I mean, it got us to where we are, right? We're now bottling sauces for sale.
Yeah, we didn't put anything out that we didn't take time to actually
and I think
research and get feedback on.
That's what a lot of people don't understand about any restaurant, right? What gets to your plate isn't just cooked right then and there, right? There's been hours and hours and hours of preparation to get the ingredients right, to get things cooked correctly. People don't realize there is so much prep that goes into barbecue. There's and I can't say.
You have to prep for days in advance before anything can go out on the floor.
I mean, I couldn't imagine what it takes to run an Italian restaurant that does their own pasta.
Well, you would make the pasta in advance.
Oh, okay, you don't. I don't.
I could probably.
But
we have to remember that I did have a background in restaurants long before I met you.
Again, I couldn't imagine how long it takes to make homemade pasta.
It's actually very time consuming.
It's going to be. Mm-hmm. There's stuff that has to go.
It sounds like it's easy, but you could make it wrong.
It can't be. Yeah, and same thing with people's homemade sauces.
Yep.
Marinara sauce. You can go to 5 different places and everyone's sauces is different.
Right. They could all be using the same exact ingredients, but again, that leads back to chefs. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's your own way of doing things.
Yeah.
Do you put veal in it? Do you not put in it? Do you put pork? It's
everything. Yeah.
And I can go to every Italian restaurant and eat every of it and
Oh, yeah. So that Sean loves Italian,
loves it.
which is great because Massachusetts is full of Italian.
And
every
really
corner.
good
It's like
Italian
Texas.
food.
Every corner there's a barbecue place.
I know, but
Massachusetts, every corner is
it's
Italian.
really, you know, it's good. People,
And I can't eat Italian.
I know.
I can't a
which is
lot.
too
It's
bad.
very gluten, dairy, soy heavy. So somebody's going to say, "Well, what about gluten-free pasta?" I'm allergic to that too. Sorry.
It stinks. But you know, it's again that every restaurant has their uphill battle of making sure that the food that you're about to eat and order is
Consistent
consistent.
and good.
And that's why when people call and say, "How come? What do you mean you're out of beef rib? What do you mean you're out of X, Y, and Z?"
Or we run out of Brussels, or we run out
Or-
of collard greens. Brussels is our
The
favorite.
amount of Brussels sprouts that comes out of Code One Barbecue,
It's ridiculous.
it is insane.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
There was
when
one-
we opened this place up, there was no way I thought Brussels was
Yeah.
gonna be something that we like because we sold it for catering, and
Yeah,
the
who knew how many
second we
people
opened up
actually
the
loved
door,
Brussels?
like where are these? Where are we getting all these? Like every other day, at one point, we
Yeah,
were
we
getting
order
Brussels,
multiple a week, yeah.
and then they're like the size of bowling balls, and then you have to cut them down. The prep on them.
Remember,
are-
there was one week that Natalie was like, "I cut so many Brussels. If we sell out, I'm going to
gonna
kill everybody."
But and that's what kills me is that, you know, not there's a good amount of people that do understand that fresh made food.
It's not like buying.
It's
Yeah,
not like buying.
we are a made from scratch kitchen. You're not going to walk into our kitchen and see us pull something frozen and pre-made from anywhere.
And we're not
just heat
saying
it
there's
up.
anything wrong with that.
No,
No, but we have chosen to be
right,
a scratch made place because I
Right.
think that's how barbecue should be made.
absolutely. Yep. So we have fresh produce that comes in every day. We're trimming it. We're getting it ready. Again, like the collard greens. Our prep days, Monday and Tuesday. Originally, we just had one prep day.
It was nuts. I don't know how we survived.
Well, and if you've been into our restaurant, you have seen how small it is. If you haven't been into our restaurant, why not? Why haven't you been there yet?
211 Main Street.
Wilmington, Massachusetts. And if you've been in there, you've seen how small it is. So we don't have a huge kitchen staff.
No.
And we literally, our kitchen staff is 2 people right now plus me. And we have Susan who does, cornbread and baking. And we have
Yep.
somebody on dish as much as we can. And so it's like we were at one day and we were trying to get everything prepped in one day. Baked beans, they take hours to cook baked beans. So when we run out of baked beans, we can't just go in the back, pop open a can and make some baked beans.
No.
So collard greens, same exact way. And we were on a one-day prep. We were all trying to share the kitchen. You were trying to trim meat. We're trying to make batches and batches. We get, all of our dry ingredients ready for cornbread, for example, before, and then we make the cornbread fresh from our dry ingredient batch. Trying to cook everything, and it was like it's like an 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. work day, and then be open, every single
The following day at 11:30.
Yeah, and it got really difficult. So we
Difficult.
closed down on.
It got difficult? That's the word you want to use? Difficult?
What word would you use?
I don't know. If you've ever seen the movie Transformers, when it feels like all the Transformers are running down the street in their vehicles, and then they transform into robots, and then they re-transform into vehicles. It was like plane crashing, and
Yeah, like city destroying.
yeah, it was like the movie with Tom Cruise there, War of the Worlds.
Oh yeah.
Like-
It did feel a little like that.
Like,
Yeah.
there's no way I'm gonna
Laser shooting at you, and you're like,
I'm not gonna make Thursday.
behind,
I'm not gonna make Thursday.
hot stuff coming through.
Not gonna make Thursdays. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be dead before Thursday hits. Watch this.
Yep.
Watch me die before Thursday.
And then we tried to open for breakfast for a little while.
That was crazy too.
That
I don't
was-
know.
that was
we
a-
had
yeah.
we had such like this is gonna be. It's, to be honest with you, I didn't think it was gonna be that difficult. Right?
Yeah, we had no idea what
you know
being in barbecue really meant until we started
being a barbecue.
Being a barbecue, yeah.
You know, we were catering, and then, 100 people, 150 people. It was like, okay, we can feed 150 people. We can feed 400.
But we would cater, and then, okay, we cooked all this food, and we would be done for the day, but now we have to cook all this food and then serve people all day long.
Yeah.
And we're doing it in a way that, it's... The barbecue is a little bit different from coming into a pizza place, for example. You have a pizza place, you're popping pizza out. Somebody's calling to order, you're making them a pizza, you're popping it out, but we have to have everything ready. We have to have all the meat ready. We can't say, you want brisket? Hold on, let me smoke that for you real quick.
Yeah, or I mean the quickest item that we can make is party wings. And to smoke those, they take an hour and a half.
Yeah, and
right?
and that actually depends on how many we're smoking at one time.
Right.
The more we smoke, the longer that cook process is.
And what people don't realize is that after the smoking process and things come out, especially brisket, they have to rest.
Yeah.
Right? And good barbecue places know how long certain pieces of protein need to rest.
But everybody still has an opinion on that one, too.
And everyone has an opinion.
You only need to rest a brisket 2 hours. You need to rest a brisket 12 hours.
Yeah.
You need to,
a whole day. There's some people out there that are resting briskets up to 16 hours before they get served. Yeah. But they're also going through 24 to 40 briskets an hour.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
We're not there yet, right? So,
how many? You said Franklin. Now, because we're mentioning Franklin's Barbecue because they're he's one of the most well-known.
Yeah, I think the last time I read, he does 140 a day.
140 briskets a day.
I know there's a few other, like Truth Barbecue, who has he has 2 locations.
Yeah, but if we're talking
they do up to 300 a day.
Like, I couldn't even imagine doing 300 briskets a day right now.
I'd be dead.
You wouldn't be able to do that by yourself. They have a whole team.
No, they've got 2 restaurants.
Yeah.
And there's a whole team of pitmasters, assistant pitmasters.
Yep.
I get through like 15 a day, and I want to throw up.
Yeah.
And then I got to still cook
the next day,
ribs.
And then you still got to trim them the next day.
And I still got to cook the rest of the food.
Yep.
And then when people call and say, I don't understand why you don't have this.
Right. But
come say it to my face. Come to the rrestaurant and say it to my face.
Bags under your eyes. You're trying not to cry.
I'm going to show you why I don't have it. But as we've been opened, and more people come in, and how many of these awesome people come in and say, "What time do you start during the day?"
Yeah, they ask a lot of questions. When did you put that brisket on? And I'll say,
"Have you slept?"
Yeah.
Like
the answer is always no.
Some of our favorite people that come in, that's the first thing they said. And when they see me, they're like, "Have you slept yet?"
Yeah.
Like, no, not yet. I'm getting there though.
I love that. A lot of our customers come in, and that's one of the things is we get a lot of repeat. We have loyal customers who come in, and they're just like, "How you guys doing? How is everything? I'm following you on social media. Everything looks great. Are you sleeping? Take care of yourself."
Yeah.
We'll have time where we have a day off. We have one day off a week. It's Sundays, and it's a kind of day off. We stay home and we spend time with the family, but I still have to do payroll and inventory and ordering and all that stuff. But we'll post something like, with the family today, and they're like, good for you,
Yeah, I mean, this whole town has been just
so excited about having a barbecue
and
space.
So gracious.
We never even expected that.
No, and people literally come in, and it's like Norm from Cheers. I'm screaming from the back their name, and
they're like, "Where's Sean? Is he in yet?"
We're high-fiving and hugging, and I'm like, "Was that Steve or was that John?"
Yeah.
I can't keep
I'm not going to admit that I keep a little notebook with everyone's name.
You have to. I mean, we want everyone to feel like they're coming home for dinner.
Yeah. Exactly.
We want to be different, and that was the one thing that we wanted to make sure is when you walk through our door,
Yeah, you're not just a number.
You're just not just a number. You're buying.
And this is why we talk to you about the barbecue and what we do. Because
it's important for you guys to understand the things that go into it to make this what we consider a high level barbecue.
Great quality food at as best a cost as we can give it to you, as best a price as we can give it to you, straight from our home to yours.
Right. And a lot, that one review that said that because we didn't have something, it was because we didn't feel like sourcing it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, mostly we get really good reviews, but we have gotten some bad reviews. And usually the bad reviews, they're not usually generally related to the food. I mean, some people aren't going to like our food, and that's fine. But
that's fine.
we have gotten bad reviews because we didn't have an item in stock. And it's like, well, why?
Because we didn't feel like sourcing it.
Yeah. I remember that one. That one irked me a bit. I was like,
a little.
Like as if I'm not running around calling every distributor, wondering where the heck the collard greens are this week. Why are we have a shortage on collard greens? I don't understand.
The huge
Who's selling
shortage
them?
on pork that happened at the end of last year.
Yes.
Right?
Why did that happen?
Because Massachusetts decided to pass a law on free-range pork, which I think is a great idea. It's the reason why we choose certain partners that we partner with.
Right.
When it comes to sourcing our protein.
Right.
We want, especially on the brisket, we're using Creekstone and Dolan Bailey, who provides us the Creekstone briskets.
Yep.
They're 100% Black Angus cows, steers.
I'm not going to correct
animals.
you on that.
They're Black Angus. They're getting they know the farmers that they're getting them from.
Yeah. They're sourcing them from farms across the Midwest.
And, they have, they're happy cows, which means a whole lot to us. Their one bad day is when it gets to my restaurant.
Yeah. Well, I would say their one bad day is before they get to the restaurant.
Yeah.
Because we don't get it's not like we get the whole cow and we're butchering the cow in the back in the middle of Wilmington.
Right. So they have one, hopefully I only have one bad day.
Right.
Right. Unless one gets divorced from its wife or.
I don't know how that works.
I don't either.
Do cows...
I don't know if they
cows form relationships.
I don't know.
That's something. All right, we're gonna have to research that one too.
But again, it's we try to get the best quality of food that we can.
Yeah. So we did go through a pork shortage when that law finally went into play, and actually it was something that was passed pre-COVID, right? And they waited.
They waited until COVID was basically over,
and gave people some time to prepare for it, but it's still when it hit.
There was no way of preparing for that. Free range pork is they need a lot of land, and where a lot of pork comes from is caged, or penned.
Penned, yeah,
they don't have
in
a
tight
ton of room.
spaces. It's kind of the same thing with chicken.
Yeah, and I don't know much about. I'm not a farmer. I don't know anything about how farming is done. I know it is an incredibly.
No, but that I just actually recently heard a statistic that
said
that
folks.
Farmers,
Yep.
for all jobs that exist, the happiest workers are farmers. They have the happiest and most peaceful lives, and it has something to do with them being outside a lot.
I would say, yeah.
I'll find that and share it with everybody.
I don't know if I could agree. I mean,
well, have you ever been a farmer and worked outside? You're working the land. You're working with your hands. Yeah, that doesn't count.
Oh.
That's his favorite thing to say when somebody asks him how he learned to trim brisket.
Yeah, I mean, listen, working with animals and.
You're working with nature. You're working outside. You're getting a lot of vitamin D.
I can see that.
Farmers are their own. They maybe they're subsidized. And all of that stuff. I don't know how that works, but it's like usually a farmer. It's their own farm that they're working on.
We should get a farmer on the podcast.
We need to get a farmer on the podcast.
If you're a farmer, a dairy farmer, or a cattle farmer, or a chicken farmer,
or any farmer,
or any kind
do you
of farmer.
grow collard greens? Can you help us understand why? We run out of collard greens and cabbage.
Hit us up. We'd love to have you on the podcast.
Yes, that would be awesome. For sure.
And call now.
No, we don't have a call-in line right
No,
now.
we don't have a call-in line.
Someday.
One day. So, yeah, I mean, that's why, the people that we get our products from is, we kind of vet them out.
It matters to us.
It does.
We want to get high-quality product that we can get at and, give it to you at the best price we can give it to you. But, again, like we use local honey. So
where do we get that from?
That comes from the hip bee. The hip bee is out of Billerica, So I love the idea. Like I love the idea that we have little honeybees flying around Billerica and Tewksbury and Wilmington and all that, sourcing honey for us.
They've been with us since day one.
Day one.
Since the first catering job.
Yep. And I don't even remember. I think I think Tom and Wes, they posted out on the Wilmington Community Board, and I had actually got their honey just like,
At a farmer's market.
I don't know if it was at the farmer's market. They delivered honey around town is what they did. And they I think it was they posted out on the Wilmington Community Board, hey, we're delivering honey because they'll deliver your honey for you. And they give you, when they deliver your honey, they give you these cool little honey candies and you can buy like a honey beeswax, chapstick and stuff like that. And I ordered it one day and then I used it in the cornbread. And I've always been a big proponent of local honey. I won't buy it in the market basket or at the superstores. I don't buy mass-produced honey.
Right.
And people will say, well, why? And I'll say, well, I will literally give you a taste test. I've kept mass-produced honey in my house and local honey, and you'll say, well, what is it? It doesn't matter. It's no difference. And I will literally make you taste test the difference between the local honey and the mass-produced honey. And whatever it is in the process, there is a difference, and we determined that there was no way we were going to just buy honey from, the restaurant depot. We were going to use local honey, and the Hip Bee guys became our honey distributors, and they deliver us fresh bottles. We get 5-pound jugs of honey, multiple
and they're hysterical
5-pound jugs of honey, and every week they come in and they bring us the honey and we give them back the other bottles, and it's one of my favorite things to do. And we put that in the cornbread, and we also use that in the Carolina Gold sauce, and we also use it in our Code 1 finishing sauce.
Yep.
Or glaze.
Glaze.
We haven't decided which one that's going to be yet. Is it a finishing sauce? Is it a glaze?
We'll
we don't
figure
know.
Yeah, and they've just been super. They hype us up as much as they can, as we try to do with them as well.
Yeah.
But they're super nice guys, local, just
yeah,
and
and that's one of the things that we love to do is make sure that we're try to utilize as much local resources as we can, because small business we need to support each other. We're all in this together.
Yep.
And that's what makes it so great.
And it's we love doing it. That's for sure. I love seeing those two guys come.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've gone through a lot of stuff on, our barbecue and whatnot. And, I mean, one of the questions that we do get a lot is, like, how do we know how much to cook? How do you know how much brisket to make? How do you know how much meat? How do we know how much sides?
I absolutely hate this question.
Why?
I just do. Because I don't know. I don't have an answer.
But that's an answer. That's a perfect response when you don't know.
It's been so weird.
When you don't know, ask somebody.
Yeah. Who do I ask?
I don't know.
That's right. So, I don't know. We have to kind of gauge. We take the last couple of weeks. We go back kind of day by day, right? Okay, last Tuesday we went through X amount of briskets. We should probably do a few more. And then
when did we sell out is what, because we do, brisket tends to be the one that sells out like every night. Brisket and pork ribs are the big sellout items. So,
yes.
Oh, what time did we sell out last Tuesday? Well, we're not open Tuesdays anymore, but okay, Wednesday. What time did we sell out last Wednesday? And typically Sean may not be in the restaurant when that happens because he's, home sleeping, taking a nap, or maybe he is. Maybe he's in the back trimming briskets for the next day. But I'll say, well, it was 6 o'clock, and how many customers did we see? And we track all of that with our ordering platform. We use, our POS system, and our online ordering will tell us how many briskets, pretty much how many brisket dinners and sandwiches and whatnot we sold. And we determine next week you need at least, one more. You need 2 more. We sold out too early.
Right.
That's a thing that I tend to say a lot. And it's like, well, we also saw like 30 more people before 6 p.m. than we typically would on a Wednesday. And that's why we sold out earlier or something like that.
Right. And it's been tough because there's been no really consistency until we hit like Saturday. And even on Saturday, it's like this Saturday,
vacation
week. It was
week,
school
though.
vacation week, and it was like the last day, the weekend before the kids have to go back. Of course, people are going to go
day trips or
day
other,
trips,
and
go to
other
the zoo.
vacations,
They're not thinking about, let's go get some brisket.
It was actually a pretty good Saturday,
But it was
though.
a good Saturday, right? We saw like 60 people and
I think it was more than that, but we
Yeah.
ended up with a couple of briskets left over.
rich. Yep.
So that's a good question is, what do we do with all that leftover food if we don't sell it?
We give it to the turkeys behind the building.
No, we don't. They would eat us. You won't even, we do have turkeys that roam around and, one time.
They're out to get me.
Yeah, Sean opened the back door to go bring trash out and they were out there and they yelled at him and he freaked out and shut the door and he's like, I can't put the trash out. The turkeys are going to get me.
They know my name because I know we cook turkey. They absolutely know. The second that door opens, they're like,
yeah, you've got my brother in there.
who's in there? What are you cooking? Look at, here he is, guys. They're sharpening that back claw of theirs with pool cues. They're crazy. Those two turkeys are crazy.
Yep.
They chase everybody.
They do.
The whole entire parking lot. I've got videos upon videos of people running away from those two turkeys. I watched those two turkeys hold up the intersection in front of the building so they could cross the street.
Oh, yeah.
Because people won't go near them.
They're everywhere around town.
They're like the Arnold Schwarzenegger and Rambo.
Yeah. You go onto the community board and somebody's posting about the turkeys. And they yell at people.
They're mad. They're very angry birds.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't know why either. They get to do whatever the hell they want.
Yep.
Walk around, yell, mate, yell, chase. They're like they're our current day dinosaur.
Well, they actually.
Don't do
okay.
it. Don't do it.
Turkeys and birds and chickens all come from dinosaurs. They're ancestors.
Here we go.
I am a vault of useless facts.
Yeah, information. But yeah, no, it's we try to repurpose. It goes into our. Sometimes it'll go into our beans. Sometimes it'll go into our chili.
Yeah, so pretty much I like having leftover brisket because that's what's going to go into the chili. And I actually like when we have, when we're doing pork ribs, if somebody buys a whole rack, they get the whole rack, a half rack. But the dinners, we sometimes have a lot of those end pieces that have meat on it. And I'll take all of that at the end of the night and pull that off, and we'll put that in the baked beans.
Yeah.
And it makes it like a nice heartier baked bean. Try to utilize that. Make something with the cornbread. We haven't figured out what to do if we have some leftover cornbread pieces at the end of the night.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll donate it.
Yes, we have.
Depending on how much we have.
Yep. Yeah, we've done that. Where there was actually one weekend where there was a festival in town, and we didn't see many people come into the restaurant. There was, it was a really beautiful day, and everybody was out at a festival, and there was a lot of stuff happening. It was like a beach day, and we ended up having a lot of leftover food, so we brought it to the police station. Mm-hmm. Because it's a
good way to get out of a ticket.
Oh, the Code 1 barbecue people are here.
I always keep a spare brisket in my truck.
Just in case.
Just kidding.
Yeah, we're not. We don't get tickets. There's no reason for us to get tickets.
Never.
But yeah, so we donated it out because it's not like we are open on Saturday night. We're closed Sunday. We have prep Monday, Tuesday. We don't open again till Wednesday, so it's 4 days later. So you
really can't do much with it.
We're not reheating that brisket and selling it 4 days later.
Oh, that's gross. Excuse me.
Are you yawning during the podcast?
It's unbelievable. Yes, I am.
You act like you have to go work or something after this.
Yep, certainly do.
All right, so does that mean it's time to wrap it up, Sean?
It may be.
Are we done talking about the brisket?
I need a nap.
And the pork? Okay. So today's episode, we talked all about our barbecue. Really excited to talk about all of that with you. And the next episode's going to be a big one for us, actually.
Yeah, bring some napkins.
Tissues.
And some tissues. That one's going to be tough.
The next episode's going to be all about mental health and a lot of what Sean and I went through as a married couple starting and running this business and how we've made it through. We get that question a lot.
A lot.
How do you work together as a married couple?
And my answer is always go watch Rocky 3.
Okay, because I haven't seen Rocky 3, so now I have to go. Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O, what am I going to witness?
I'm only kidding.
We do get that question a lot. I always say, well, we don't do anything else together.
We work together, that's it.
We don't watch movies together. We work together. And we've experienced a lot over the last year, and it's an episode. Since we decided to start this podcast, I said to him, this is something we need to talk about, because this is something that affects people, whether you're married or not, whether you have partners or not. When you start a business and when you're running a business, no matter where you've come from, whether you've done it before, you've come from corporate America, or it's your first job.
How about we not give the whole episode away right now? And we go do it next week. Why don't we wrap this up, lady?
Okay, let's wrap it up. So we will see you in the next episode when we go through the mental health episode. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, WCTV, for producing this. And everybody have a great day.
We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Okay, Erica, we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. This was Through Fire and Oak. We're going to see you guys in the next episode.